Is it loud? Yep, that seems strong.
Ever since James Gunn teamed up with Peter Safran as the co-CEO of DC Studios, he's been making some big moves to give DC a fresh start. One of the biggest announcements was Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow, which is set to be part of the new DC universe. For years, the DCEU has struggled with tone issues and behind-the-scenes drama, especially since Man of Steel kicked things off back in 2013. But now, with Gunn steering the ship, things are looking way more organized. He seems to have a clear vision for where things are headed, and that includes finally giving Supergirl the big screen treatment she deserves. Supergirl has never really gotten her moment to shine in live action. The 1984 Supergirl movie was a total disaster. It bombed at the box office and got ripped apart by critics. Sure, the Supergirl TV series on the CW had a decent run with 6 seasons, but let's be real, it had that made-for-TV feel. With Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow, there's finally a chance to do justice to the character and flesh out her story in a way that actually fits into a bigger universe. DC fans are also buzzing because Jason Momoa is playing Lobo in the DCU, and it honestly feels like he was born for the role. He's made it clear for years that Lobo has been his dream character to play, and now that it's happening, people are dying to see how he'll look in Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow and how big of a role he'll have in the movie. Momoa recently chatted with Screen Rant's Ash Crossan about it, teasing that the character design is spot on and that his bike is going to be really cool. He didn't spill too many details, but he did say he's only in the movie for a little bit, which makes sense since it's ultimately Supergirl's story. So far, DC has done a solid job with their character designs, sticking close to the comic book looks while updating them for live action. From what Momoa is saying, it sounds like Lobo's look will be just as accurate. And since Momoa himself is a massive motorcycle fan, you just know Lobo's bike is going to be something special. But even with all the excitement around Lobo, it's good to hear that the movie is still mainly focused on Supergirl. It's easy for big-name actors and fan-favorite characters to steal the spotlight, but at the end of the day, this is supposed to be Kara's journey. As for when we'll actually get to see it, Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow is set to hit theaters on July 26, 2026. That's more than a year after the Superman movie comes out on July 11, 2025, which makes Supergirl's movie a pretty crucial part of DCU's Chapter One. The timing actually works out well. It's not too close to Superman, but it's also not so far apart that audiences will forget about any potential teases or connections between the two movies. James Gunn has also given updates on how production is going, and it looks like everything is right on track. The movie is about halfway through filming, which means they're making good time and still leaving plenty of room for visual effects work to be polished. Gunn has been hyping up the script, and he couldn't be happier with director Craig Gillespie. He even mentioned that I, Tonya is one of his favorite movies, so getting Gillespie on board for Supergirl was a dream come true. Casting-wise, Millie Alcock is taking on the role of Supergirl, which seems like a pretty great choice. Gunn admitted that Alcock was his first pick after seeing her performance in House of the Dragon, and Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow comic creator Tom King even called it perfect casting. There's also a rumor that Alcock's Supergirl might show up in the Superman movie before leading her own film, but nothing's been confirmed yet. Along with Alcock, we've got Matthias Schoenaerts playing the villain, Krem of the Yellow Hills, and Eve Ridley as Ruthie Mary Knoll. Jason Momoa is of course playing Lobo, while David Krumholtz and Emily Beecham will be playing Supergirl's parents, Zor-El and Allura. One of the most exciting things about this movie is how it's bringing Lobo into the DCU. Momoa has been linked to the role for years, so when it finally became official, he was beyond hyped. Gunn even shared that right after the announcement, the first text he got from Momoa just said, "Lobo, baby," in all caps with a bunch of exclamation points. Apparently, Gunn was totally on board from the start and had no issue with Momoa playing Lobo even after being Aquaman. Story-wise, the movie is sticking pretty closely to the Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow comic by Tom King, which is exciting because that story is one of the best Supergirl comics out there. Based on what Gunn has said, this version of Supergirl is going to be a lot different from what people are used to. she grew up on a chunk of Krypton that survived the planet's destruction, which meant she spent the first 14 years of her life watching everyone around her die in horrible ways. Because of that, she's a much tougher and more jaded version of the character compared to the classic Supergirl people might expect. The plot follows Kara as she gets roped into a revenge mission by an alien girl named Ruthie, whose entire planet was wiped out. Since this is a James Gunn movie, there's also a pretty good chance Krypto the Superdog will make an appearance, which would be a fun addition. With Matthias Schoenaerts playing Krem, it looks like the movie will really lean into the darker and more intense elements of the comic. Having Supergirl go head-to-head with Krem could lead to some brutal and emotional moments, making this one of the more serious entries in the DCU so far. Even though it's unlikely that Supergirl will appear in Gunn's Superman movie, there's still a chance that Superman could have some kind of role in her story. When Gunn talked about Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow, he specifically brought up how different she is from Superman, highlighting the contrast between how he was raised with love on Earth, while she had a much harsher upbringing. Whether that means we'll actually see the two of them interact, or if it's just a thematic connection, remains to be seen. But either way, it sets up an interesting dynamic between the two Kryptonians in the new DCU. With Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow gaining momentum in production, it feels like it's only a matter of time before we finally get a first look at Jason Momoa as Lobo. And based on what he recently told Screen Rant, it sounds like fans are in for something special. While promoting his new movie, a Minecraft movie, Momoa opened up about stepping into the role of Lobo. When asked what he's most excited about, he made it clear that this has been a dream role for him, thanks to his love for the comics. Without giving too much away, he teased that his look is pretty dead on and even hyped up Lobo's ride, saying, "I'll say the bike's really cool." Considering how much Momoa respects the source material, that's a great sign for fans hoping for a comic-accurate Lobo. But if he really wants to nail the look, there's one iconic piece he has to rock: the legendary Bite Me fanboy jacket. One of Lobo's most recognizable outfits comes straight from the cover of Lobo's Back #1, a sleeveless cropped denim vest with Bite Me fanboy scrawled across the back, complete with a winged skull patch and silver studs. Paired with his signature studded belt, this look screams everything Lobo is about: loud, rebellious, and completely unapologetic. It's become the go-to image for the character, and if DC is aiming for comic accuracy, this jacket needs to make an appearance. Even if it's just hanging in the background, it'd be a killer Easter egg for fans. Even if the Bite Me fanboy jacket doesn't make it into the final cut, there's no doubt that Momoa's Lobo is going to look incredible. His energy, his love for the character, and his natural Lobo-ness — seriously, it's like he was made for this role — makes this one of DC's best casting choices yet. With Supergirl still a ways off, DC should definitely drop a first-look image sooner rather than later, because fans are dying to see how Momoa brings the main man to life. And that's a wrap on today's discussion about the upcoming movie. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.